Before we jump into this episode, I wanted to make sure that you knew about my 5-day 7-figure business school. This is an opportunity to spend 5 days with me to be able to learn the blueprint to growing a 7-figure education consulting business. During these 5 days, I'm going to be teaching you the psychology of a millionaire. We'll talk through how to identify that $1 million problem in your business. I'll help you package your offers as well as the pricing. I'll teach you my 7-figure sales process and help you identify the leads to pitch by the end of the 5 days so that way you can start making money immediately. This is a mind-blowing opportunity that you won't even believe that it's completely free. So in the show notes, you have the link to be able to sign up for my upcoming 5-day business school, and I look forward to seeing you there. I can't teach anything that I haven't done, right? So anything that I teach you, anything that I talk about, anything that I advocate for, I have done it, and so I appreciate the gratitude and appreciate you all for the way in which you're showing love, because that for me is alignment, is when I can stand on this stage and be an example of that it's possible. As a former teacher, I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your purpose in order to get paid. If anybody deserves to be a millionaire, it's an educator. I'm Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and you're listening to 7-Figure Educator.
It's now time to hear stories from some of your fellow entrepreneurs in education who were once where you are. They set goals and have achieved elevated levels of success under the coaching of Dr. Erica and her team. And I'm super excited to bring some new faces to the stage. So y'all gotta make sure y'all show them some love. I'm gonna bring up our panelists first, and then I'm gonna bring up our amazing leader. Y'all ready? Up first, she is the CEO of LCT-E Learning Solutions and founder of Restful Teacher. This education leader is celebrated for her advocacy in diversity, belonging, and inclusivity, and enhances learning in workspaces by tackling disengagement. Please welcome Michelle Singh! Come on, Michelle. Hey, let's go. He is the founder of the Liber Institute, a work that includes creating liberated learning environments that affirm student identities and cultivate critical thinking. Please welcome Jonathan Santos Silva.
Extra fly for the day I die.
Jonathan got the mug in his hand. He ready to do some talking. All right. Our next panelist is an innovative educator with more than 10 years experience advocating with families of students in special education and leveraging her SPEDucated leadership framework to increase educators' special ed competencies. Please welcome Diana Williams. And our final panelist is the visionary behind CEO of 2541, and she thrives on unlocking the potential of leaders who dare to dream the impossible and reimagine what's possible with power. Please welcome Charlene Mack Nelson.
Can see the stars all the way from here. Can't you see the glow on the window?
And back, like she never left, is the woman with 3 first names. We need your energy over here. But you better put some respect on it. Y'all give it up for Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas.
In my clothes, don't make me have to relapse on these. Take it back out, they taxing the road. When I was hugging it, couldn't do nothing with it. Straight from the oven with it. Came from the dirt, I emerged from it all.
Ooh, this about to be good. Oh, this about to be good. Okay, so I'm super excited to dive into this conversation. These are 4 members of our mastermind community, and so we're gonna dive into their journey. We're gonna dive into when were those moments, did you have mind trash? We're gonna dive into how did you feel? Did you have to raise your prices? How did you feel that? What about your team? We're gonna dive into all of that. So to kick us off, let's just first do some introductions, and let me go about doing it in this way. Okay, because we read each of their bios, but I just want to set a little bit of context. So raise your hand if you are full-time in your business. Okay. Michelle, how long have you been full-time?
Almost a month.
Okay, raise your hand if a year ago you were in the academy. All right. Raise your hand if a year ago you were a solopreneur, meaning you did not have a team. Raise your hand if today you have at least 1+ members of a team. All right? Raise your hand if in the past year you've had to increase your prices. Raise your hand if you have an email list. Raise your hand if you've done a webinar. Raise your hand if you have a go-to, raise your hand if you have a bookkeeper. Okay, so let's dig into it. I know you're listening to this episode, and if you felt like you found your community, well, I want you to take the next step to join our community on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, other Black education consultants just like you, and we're talking about proposals, we're talking about the next opportunity. People are collaborating and finding contracts together. It's an amazing, beautiful space that we've been able to curate, and I want to invite you to join. So go ahead and click the link in the show notes to be able to request to join my Facebook group, and I look forward to engaging with you there. So let's first start with mindset. I would love to hear, this question is going to be for everyone. I would love for you to share with us an example of mind trash that you'd had to take out in the last year. So when I say mind trash, I mean this is a mindset that is not serving you, so you got to take out the trash. Okay? So what's one example of the mind trash that you had to take out in the last year in order to grow your business?
For me, it's been my perfectionism. And my perfectionism has been a form of how I've disengaged as a high-performing, high-achieving woman. And my perfectionism has prevented me from sending that email because I'm afraid, oh, they might not like how I said this. My perfectionism have prevented me from posting on social media or even saying that I had a business. Y'all, I wrote a book and nobody knew. I have a business and people in my family, my brother told me that I'm like Martin, Tommy from Martin. He don't know what I do. Okay? So perfectionism has shown up in many ways in my personal and professional life that's prevented me, but because of working on that mind trash, because of going through mindset calls and seeing a therapist and having strategies in place when it comes up, I'm showing up on social media, I'm showing up in my business to the point where now I am full-time in my business and I'm showing up in my family as well.
So good.
The biggest mind trash, because there was a lot, I agree. The biggest one, I think you actually called it out right in front of my face. I believed that, and I think it comes from culture, I think it comes from religion, but I believed that if I just did what I was supposed to do and I did it well and I kept my head down, that other people would talk. And other people would tell, right? I didn't need to sing my praises because if you're really doing it for the right reasons, people will recognize. And I guess in your own way, you basically said that was a lie from the pit of hell. Like, if I wasn't talking about what I was doing, nobody was going to, right? I had to have I had to believe that I was worthy of praise, that I was worthy of recognition, and tell people the story of what we were doing if they were going to know about it. I think that, coupled with this idea that there wasn't enough money, there was scarcity, and so why would somebody pay me? And think about how foolish that idea was, because I worked in schools. I've seen how much money we waste at the end of semesters because we got to spin this down, and then they bring in somebody who, you know as well as I do, is not nearly as qualified or nearly as passionate or connected to the kids as you are, and they're paying them 5 figures or more for a couple of hours of things that nobody's going to be doing on Monday. Everybody's going to forget. And I'm like, so they, like you talked about, this is not really a money recession, it's more of a trust recession. Because when you think about education, they're sitting out here like this, sending it out to, Bill and Karen and Chad, and they come down, and I was working in rural spaces, so they're coming from New York, from LA, that is nothing like the rural area, and they're going to tell us how to do things and then go back on first class. And so remembering that I needed to tell my story, if I was going to then turn around and tell them to come and pay me, those were probably the 2 pieces that were most transformational in the last year.
So good. What about you, Diana?
Hey, y'all. So I've had to overcome a lot of mind trash. And I think the biggest one is that just because I'm a Black woman, just because I have a high degree in competence and being able to execute most things by myself, doesn't mean that I should. And I need to really focus my time and energy on revenue generating tasks. And I'm not going to spend my time cooking because I'm going to hire someone else to do it. And I'm not going to clean my house. I'm going to hire a housekeeper and make enough money to pay her to come every 2 weeks. So I think that was the hardest thing. And then understanding that if I really wanted my business to grow, I could not continue to split my energy. And so recognizing that I had to close my other business.
Which was? Tell them what it was. Because somebody need to hear it.
I had a resume writing business, and she told me last year in the crowd that, you can't continue to run your t-shirt business. And I'm like, sure, you don't know me. I could do both. And I was doing both. And then I took a pause this summer, and I realized the people that are paying $100 for a resume are stressing me out, and I could make $10,000 in a 2-hour PD, so it's done. So as of last weekend, I have officially closed the business and the accounts. So super excited about that, and just excited to mourn and grieve that process, so that way I can really step into and really elevate my business.
All right. How much can y'all see right now? Because I already got pregnant. Let's see. I would say this has been a different kind of faith walk. I was crying last SFE because of a big decision I was about to make. And the biggest mind trash was correctly interpreting scripture. And it says, I will be a light unto your feet, not a light for the next mile. And that was hard for me, because it's different when you're like, okay, God, I can see where my foot's going, but I want to see over there. Yeah. And he's like, but that's not what I told you. So having community around you to depend on it, to add to that light is like some mind trash. I don't need to have the entire path illuminated. Yeah.
So this mind trash piece, it's going to spiral, because even as I move on to other questions, there's going to be mindset that's undergirded within it. Let's have a conversation around offers.
Last year this time, I was out in these streets curating webinars for $750 because I was invited to do a webinar for an organization or a school because I was invited, not because I was putting myself out there and selling, but because I was invited. This year, I'm a TEDx speaker. I proudly say that I'm an author, so my prices start at $5K.
I mean, the biggest difference for me is that I actually have offers. You know? And like, it sounds silly, but you know, when you're coming from a mindset of lack and you have mind trash, then you'll do whatever anybody asks. And so I didn't have a 3-tiered offer. I was doing custom, even at tier 2 and tier 1 prices, custom. And so being able to develop the confidence to say, this is what I do, this is what I offer, and there are enough people out there who need this that I don't need to chase whatever you want to give me crumbs for. That was the biggest shift in my offers.
I just had an aha moment yesterday. So my first contract was with the school that I co-founded, and I was leaving, and they didn't want to lose me completely. And it was a year-long leadership coaching for the new special education leader, and I charged about maybe $50,000. And that was my tier 3 offer. And yesterday I realized that I have a current client at tier 2, and in 3 months, I make $45,000. So now it's reimagining how my prices look, because they're gonna pay for it, because I know I got that juice. So now I just have to feel confident in continuing to raise my price and offering it and being of service to folks.
And keep in context, she still got a 9-to-5. Okay? So, because there's somebody out here who believes because they have a 9-to-5, they don't have time for their business. And again, that's a belief. That's not a fact. All right, so let's talk through team, because each of you have evolved in team over the past year. And so when you think about team, like, how did you get to the point where you knew, like, oh, it's time to hire? And what did that actually look like for you?
I would say being in this space last year. So I, again, you don't need to do this, but I had attended something of yours, the city trip?
The tour.
The tour in Chicago. And I was like, dang, we doing this now, God? And that Monday, so that was Saturday, and that Monday I put in my 2 weeks notice. And then that was like June, and then September I attended the SFE, and you were like, hey, for where you are now, you need an EA, and I was like, oh, but I got maybe 5 figures in my account, and or maybe 4, I don't remember, and I was like, but I'm gonna do it. And so being able to release that, it legit like quadrupled our capacity and the number of proposals we had. So I think being a community helped me to understand, even though there was a fear of where I was in the moment. So going back to, not having the whole path illuminated, but understanding where you are in the moment.
I was so scared to hire. I'm very type A. I suffer from perfectionism. I'm in recovery. And I really wanted to prioritize working with Black women. And so I reached out to the community to find different companies that could help refer virtual assistants for me. And one was based out of the Philippines, and I'm like, okay, they're people of color, but it ain't really what I wanted. And then the other was a company that their prices were just insane, and they could not do what I needed them to do. And I jumped on a coaching call, and they were like, you've hired before in schools. And I'm like, yeah. They were like, so do it. So I wrote a job description, I posted it on LinkedIn, I created a performance task, I created an interview rubric, and of the 15 candidates that applied, I actually had about 8 quality and 1 interview, and she is amazing. And super excited about that, because yesterday, I actually posted my second job opportunity to start recruiting for a program facilitator, because in order to meet my end of the year goal to hit that gap number, I need more hands on deck, so that way we can get in front of more people and make more money.
All right, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna just say quickly, this is how deep the mind trash goes. I already had a team in place when I came last year for the first time. I already had raised, I did the numbers yesterday, $1.8 million in philanthropy. And then I'm sitting in here and talking to Dr. EJT about how I can't sell this, and I don't have this, and I don't have that. And so having the team hiring people is one thing, but believing that you're a CEO and you can delegate the right tasks to them. Because there's things that you all can do and that you're great at doing, but they're not CEO tasks. They're not things that only you can do. And so correcting the mind trap so that you can delegate appropriately and spend your time on the revenue generating tasks, that's the game changer.
The one thing I'll say is there was something I learned, the importance of working in and not on your business, right? So are you working in your business, meaning are you doing those little tasks that are taking up the time from you actually doing those revenue generating activities? Or are you working on developing your sales process, your operations, your marketing, things like that? And so that stuck with me, and I did hire a VA. I also am a struggling perfectionist, and it was hard for me to let go because I know how I do something, and I know ain't nobody gonna do it like how I do it. And so it was hard for me to let go of doing certain tasks in the business because of that. But I created SOPs, recorded videos, did an onboard process, met with the VA, and now she's recording the SOPs for the tasks because she understands what the business is, what our values are, and we have a really good relationship. And I just tell her what I want, record a video explaining it, send it to her, and she gets it done.
Well, a common thread that each of you named, it reminds me of something Dr. Flowers, Siobhan Flowers, who was on the stage yesterday and killed it. We talk about in a podcast episode that dropped a couple weeks ago of how sometimes perfectionism shows up as work avoidance. And so work avoidance is you avoiding doing the real work, so you intentionally work on a distraction that makes you feel good. And the distraction could be, like she gave the example of a website. It could be, for some of y'all, it's cleaning a house. You start cleaning the house, doing laundry, you ain't made no money, but it's like, these clothes folded, the dishes put away, these baseboards clean, right? So just naming, so that way you can see the patterns, because I thought that's really interesting. If in your business, you feel like you're moving forward, but you're not. It's a way to actually, perfectionism shows up sometimes as distractions that make you feel good. Right? So they don't feel like distractions. I know you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to pop in really quickly to make sure that you know about my event, 7-Figure Educator Live. It is the only event for Black educators who have a vision of a 7-figure education consulting business, and they are ready to make that vision a reality. You have the opportunity to spend 3 days in person with me and my team in Atlanta, Georgia, and I guarantee this is a transformative experience you do not want to miss. So to grab your ticket, you're gonna need to head to 7figureeducator.com. Again, that's the number 7figureeducator.com, and grab your ticket before the price goes up. The link is also in the show notes. Go ahead and click, and I'll see you there. Okay, let's dive into a little bit of the sales and marketing conversation that we've been having, because each of you have a really unique story when it comes to sales and marketing. And we've been talking about, when we talk about traffic, there's 3 types of traffic. There's organic traffic, of you naturally, organically promoting your business and driving traffic. There's partnership traffic, the art of borrowing other people's audiences. And then there's paid traffic, of actually paying to get access to new leads. And each of you have a very distinct pathway in the way in which you've been building traffic. And so I just want to dig into some of those nuances. So Michelle, you are a beautiful example of partnership traffic, which is one of the most underestimated traffic sources. So can you talk to us a little bit around how you've leveraged partnerships to generate traffic in your business?
Absolutely. So the partnerships that I have, they were partnerships that I had when I was in the school system. And what I did was, for 5 years I worked at the district level, and I worked on a team who was responsible for all the ed tech integration for the school district, and we were working with the vendors directly, like Microsoft, Google, Nearpod, Renaissance, all them people. And I developed relationships with them because I was in a very toxic work environment, and my way of disengaging from that work environment and feeling some kind of value was by becoming part of their professional learning networks. So they had like certification programs and all of the things that were extra work, but I still became part of their groups. And so when I did leave the school district, I kept those relationships, and I was able to still leverage them as a business owner. In fact, I became a Microsoft global training partner because of the relationship that I had built with them. I became a Nearpod certified trainer because of the relationship I had built with them. Prezi and lots of other organizations that are ed tech. And the key to it is not just because I knew the people. It's because I actually took time to nurture the relationships, and my ELA, my forever ELA teacher's gonna come out, because y'all, I got an acronym for you. Sow to grow. So for me, sowing, the S is showing up as who I am authentically. So I remember a conversation that I was having with the director, executive at Microsoft, and she was asking me how I was doing. And at the time, I had just dropped my daughter off to college. She goes to Howard, and my only child. And I told her that I was kind of sad because we had just dropped off my daughter. And I shared with her, and again, this is a part of showing up as you authentically, going deep. Meaning, there's also something else that I kind of have adopted. How deep you go is how high you can go. So I shared with her, I said, look, it's hard because I had my daughter at 22. I was pregnant with my daughter as a senior in college. I've grown up with my daughter. I would have never said that publicly to anybody, not even to a group of 300 strangers who are my friends in this room. But because I was so in tune and connected with myself at that time and confident in my past experiences because they made me who I am, they make me who I am, I shared that. And she told me she had her daughter at 15. We're talking about a director, executive at Microsoft, right? And so that kind of level of connection is what you can develop when you show up authentically. So S, show up as you. O is to observe. Observe, meaning ask the question, show that you're genuinely interested in them. And any opportunity I have to book a call with somebody who is in one of those organizations, I'll book it just to say, hey, I just wanted to check in and let you know what ideas I have. What do you have coming up? I see that you got some, webinars. Here are some ideas I have. Or if I'm at a conference, and by the way, I don't go to conferences that I pay for because I'm in these organizations, in these professional learning committees and professional learning networks, and I give value. I get flued out, y'all. Okay? So, but that is because of the relationships I build. So if I'm at a conference presenting at a booth for these organizations, because they done flued me out, I'm also going to other booths, meeting other vendors, getting cards and phone numbers and following up and booking calls with them to develop that relationship so that I can learn what their programs are and become an ambassador for that program so that I can leverage that network and that program. So I observe and I ask genuine questions and I show that I'm genuinely interested. Example, there was a lady I was meeting with in an organization. She had on a Sassy Jones necklace, y'all. So for the sassy people, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I noticed the Sassy Jones necklace, and I was like, hey, I have the similar one. So after she and I met, I sent her like a little thank you package, and it included something from Sassy, And I ended up getting a contract with that company, that organization. So be observant, be thoughtful, be genuine. And the W is to wow them. Wow them before, during, and after. Before is all the nurturing stuff. During is if you're doing the, whatever it is, a webinar. I mean, be you, do your magic. Bring that spirit of excellence. But there's the after, the post-launch. What are you doing afterwards? I always send a follow-up email right after. I use Talkadot. I always get my testimonials and share with them, hey, here's what some people had to say. And I give them an overview of what I can offer for the next webinar, and I schedule a follow-up meeting to talk with them and debrief so that I could be on the calendar for the next time. I have done 4 webinars for Prezi alone in the past year, and when I was sitting over there last year, my business was a hobby. I did not have a list. I am full-time in my business sitting up here on this stage this year, and I have a list of almost 5,000 people.
Yes.
So to grow.
Yes, so good. Diana, tell us how you strategically use conferences to generate leads.
Yes, so applying to conferences was one of my priorities in Q2. And so that looked like me applying to 2 to 3 conferences per week based off of what I would find, whether it was on the conferences list, what I see in the Get Launched Consulting group on Facebook, or just Googling. And once I get an acceptance, and now I have a tracker so that I am able to know how many conferences I have to apply for in order to get an acceptance typically. And then during this conference, I've printed out postcards to hand out to folks and to strategically leave around laying so that if they don't even come to my session, they still see me. During the session, I'm very clear with the offer of them joining my email list. I have the Talkadot as well, so that way I'm able to follow up. And so I've also created a email list cadence or sequence that after I meet them at a conference, whether they've completed my feedback survey or maybe we met in the restroom or at lunch, they'll get a series of about 6 to 8 different emails introducing myself, who I am, what I do, the offers that I have, and inviting them to book a call. And so I try to be strategic about maximizing my time in these spaces and recognizing that even if I don't get a chance to deliver the content directly to them, there's still other opportunities to have a touch point for them to know who I am and what I do.
I happened to attend a conference, and Diana was there. And as soon we were like by the buffet line, and she was like, "Come here," and she was like, "Okay, so I just presented, and I have a recording of it. How can I use that to generate more leads for people who weren't here?" And so like we over off into the side, and we like drafting like, okay, so you could send the replay to folks who click this link on your list, and then anybody who was here, if you got the email addresses, go ahead and follow up and say, here's the recording. So like that level of intentionality, because too many people go to conferences and they leave with nobody's contact information. So now you're driving, your business is a car, but you're in the passenger seat, right? And Diana's such a beautiful example of homegirl is driving her car, driving her strategic planning, the way that once she has data, she sees the gap, she creates a plan, and she executes. Charlene, talk to us a little bit around, so you have locked in a multiple 6-figure contract. What did you learn through that process?
The amount of time it takes. I remember texting you. I was like, girl, they taking a long time. It's like month 4. And so 1, the amount of time it takes, and 2, not being afraid to go higher and pitch more, and let them know your worth. So I'm not sure if I should share numbers. So the first contract, which I'm really grateful for, was like $200K. And I remember going back and forth with you, like, hey, I want to pitch this thing. So that was their first national cohort. And actually next week we launched with the same organization 2 national cohorts and an additional $75K to go deeper with the first cohort. So really, really excited about that. But I'm not sure if I would have stuck it out though. It took some patience, and it taught me about the client journey. So talking about being in the passenger seat, I remember I was really good at the one-to-ones, and I had spent so much time front-loading that I didn't have time to create space for the relationship. So it messed up my cash flow a bit. So it just taught me a lot about the client journey and what it takes to pull off a six-figure contract.
And then I think something else that's unique to your experience, because you just shared with us that last June you resigned from your job. Now, roughly a year and a half later, not only is your business making money, you have six-figure contracts, you had a six-figure month. And so what have you learned around boundaries when it comes to that level, that pace of growth? Because we were talking about this morning with some of the Academy folks, is that as your business grows, you got to redefine what a yes is. Right? So what a yes is in experimenting is not the same yes in growing. It's not the same yes in scaling. And so you've hopped stages within just in a year's and a half time. What have you learned about boundaries during that time?
So I'm generally a patient person, and I realize I'm really also quick to pick up on some BS. So I'm like, oh wait, you about to waste my time. I'm about to keep moving. And so I actually transitioned out my EA, which I was really nervous to do because it was right before the beginning of a really busy season. Creating space with the right team, which I have a really dope team. We have like 4 of them here today. 2, also about boundaries. I said no to a 5-figure contract. So I was going back and forth with my Lux crew, and I was like, hey, this is the way this person talking to me, like this. You want to be in a relationship for how long? And I was nervous to say no to that 5-figure contract, but I knew it wasn't the space that I want to create and the type of relationship I wanted to be in. So that growth of saying no to that, I'm really proud of, because I've struggled with people pleasing.
Jonathan, what role does your faith play in your entrepreneurship journey?
How much time do we have? The whole thing is a faith walk. I got to tell y'all, I first dreamed of starting my own thing. I was a senior in high school. I took an entrepreneurship elective, and I had a vision of what I was going to do. So I was 17 years old. I launched Liber. I was 37 years old. 20 years. Not because I couldn't do it, but because of the mind trash. I was reading the Bible this morning. You know, Jesus is leading everybody into the city. And the devotion was talking about how it was roughly the same journey. It was a picture of the journey that Moses led the people on. It took Jesus days. It took Moses and them 40 years. Some of us, including me, we're making an 11-day journey, a 40-year odyssey, because we don't have the faith. You know, Terry said it yesterday. She had the clear message, and God had to break the sprinkler to get her to go, right? So I'm telling you, some of y'all in here, you better move before the sprinkler busts in your house. But yeah, it is faith. It's faith. It's because some of the people that you love and that care about you are going to be the ones who discourage you the most, not intentionally, not because they don't care about you, because they're scared, because God gave you the vision and not them. They weren't there. You know, and God willing, they'll be the same ones when you achieve it, like in the circle, they will say, wow, where are we going? When are we going to Bali? Right? But right now, they're not ready, right? I don't want to put our people in a box, but if there's any people that's more, what you going to do about insurance than black people, I don't know who they are, right? My dad, every time I do anything, is, what you going to do for insurance? What about them kids? You know, because I got 4 kids. That's the other part too. For all of y'all that are parents, it's a whole nother level to it. Because it's not just your walk, it's what you're trying to lay down for your kids to break them out of the mind trash that you have. You know, I said it to when Charlene came on stage, and we're talking about $1 million a month. a six-figure month. I'll speak that one into being.
Come on.
But
come
I said, she may have had a six-figure month, but that's the $1 million baby. Because there are things that child won't think are limits and obstacles because mama's already doing it, that it doesn't have to work out of, that we had to work out of. So that's when, I can go on for days and days, but that's the faith part. It's like so much of it is, look, Charlene blew it out the water with a six-figure contract, and that, helped her get a six-figure month. But the reality is some of y'all are working just as hard or harder, but your price is off. That's faith. Because you don't think someone will pay you $100K, but you're giving $100K service for whatever.
Jonathan, so I love that you lifted that, because the same service I did for a nonprofit less than a year ago, I charged them like $3,500 for it. Now, I'm doing the same thing, 10 times more for each one of the organizations in the cohort, because I was like, I'm transforming cultures. Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's faith. It's faith. Is that, what did you say? I say mustard seed faith.
Mustard seed.
Right? What does the mustard seed become? Right? What did $3,500 become? Right? But you have to move. You have to, someone said it recently. I had never heard it. Frederick Douglass said he prayed for, 10 years, 11 years for freedom? But it wasn't until he started praying with his feet that he got free. So some of us got to pray with feet and hands and the whole body. Because you can learn and learn and learn. I'm learner is one of my top 5 strength finder. And sometimes your superpower can be your own kryptonite. Because I will sit here in the Get Launched, in the Mastermind, in the curriculum forever. But sometimes you just got to start praying with your feet. Start doing it.
Yes. And Latrice, can I get you real quick? If Latrice is in here? If I can get a member of the team real quick. But go ahead. Yes, go ahead and share.
I just wanted to share something about obedience. Because last year, again, I'm standing over there in my full-time 9-to-5 job. And I'm like, oh, okay, I could do this while still working. And I did, up until about less than a month ago. But God had always told me that I needed to be in this business, doing this work, to shift the disengagement, not just of the students, but of the teachers who serve them. Because we show up as high-achieving women in our roles, and we are completely just disengaged from what we are doing in our personal lives and our professional lives, right? And we don't even know it. But in my 9-to-5 job, God had to push me out. I had to get a health issue to that lead to me requesting some FMLA from my job for them to then tell me that I had to choose between my business and them. Okay? And if it wasn't for the health issue for that request, I wouldn't be full-time in my job. And I can stand right here, right now, since I went full-time in that month period, it was depressing. I'm laying on my sofa, completely despondent, because I'm like, for the past 20 years, since I was 22 years old, I have had steady income coming into my bank account. I don't know what that looks like to not have that. I was raised by a single mother. I need to be an independent Black woman, and I'm married, and my husband is right back there, and he's got me, but I need to be an independent Black woman and not depend on nobody but myself, right? And in this 1 month of being full-time in the business, I have received a 5-figure grant. I have received in a 4-figure contract renewal, and in verbal, a 5-figure contract. God has reminded me that this is where I need to be. And because I was obedient and I stopped playing games.
We just have one more question for you guys. What advice would you give to everybody in this room?
I just said it, y'all. Be obedient. I'm speaking to the women because Women, for a long time, we push our intuition down so much, because we don't feel the feelings that we need to feel, right? And we have to trust our gut, trust our intuition, and we have to be obedient.
Surround yourself with the right people. Whenever I quit my job and sent this like humble flex of an email to all the people I've worked with since high school, I remember it was like, hey, I've organized across 5 continents. I'm about to launch a thing. And I remember Shantae, actually is in the room, was one of the first contracts that people that reached out, and she was like, yo, I was waiting for you to start your own thing. And then my nephew Trenton, who just turned 19, who attended SFE last year, he came up with the problem statement for 2541. And he's quick to say, if like I don't let something go, Trenton's quick to say, Auntie, that's just your ego. And a LaCharle, who was somebody that will lean in and say, hey, this is not a CEO task, like give it up. A Kosi, who will tell you like, hey, let go of this isn't the vision. And a bomb husband, who's like, yo, he'll teach you something, and he doesn't have an ego that like limits you. So and then this like the Lux community, which I'm beyond grateful for, a coach. Y'all, I don't play about people I surround myself with. And y'all, Kendra and James, I mean, yo trio, that's on the card. But no, I'm really grateful, and I have a really bomb group of people around me. And I'm gonna stop naming names, Sharika, Felicity, like I have a really group of people around me.
I would say bet on yourself. When I was in this room, I don't even remember how I got here. I guess I was scrolling on Instagram. My business was a hobby, it was a side hustle, something a little extra for me to go on vacation with. And I really felt transformed in this space. And I'm not one, I don't purchase online courses or things like that. And previously I had purchased the Get Launched Consulting Academy. And I played, I wasn't doing it. And so when I came here, I said, okay, I'm gonna give myself 1 year to actually commit to building my business, to running the play, because last year she called up people to get awards, and I'm like, them people ain't make that money.
And just to be clear, in order to get an award, you have to submit your financial statement. Okay, because I'm not about to be the one, well, somebody was a fraud and I gave an award. No, I need to see a receipt. I need to see a P&L, a bank statement, or something, because if I'm putting my name on your award, I need to see evidence. I'm sorry, go ahead. Just to be clear.
So, I thought they was frauding, and I was like, we gonna see. So I was like, I'm gonna pay my money, and I don't play about my money.
Period.
I spend money on food and travel, but that's about it. And I said, so I have 1 year to make it work. So when I saw Dr. EJT at the conference, I'm gonna get my money's worth. I got a question. And every time there's a coaching call, I'm in the waiting room. Latrice, she done ran to the bathroom, started at 6, it's 6:03, I'm in the Facebook group. Are we having a meeting tonight? Because I got a question. And I'm gonna have a question because I'm gonna get my money's worth. And so when I had my renewal call, I was like, yeah, where I'm going? I got more money to be made. And so I just really appreciate that. And so it's hard sometimes to invest in yourself, especially when you're so used to investing in other people. And if it was your child, or I don't have kids, but your child or your niece or your nephew, and it was like, Auntie, Mommy, I want to go on this trip, whether you got it or not, you're going to make it work. And I just implore you to do the same for yourself, and not only just do it, but pray with your feet and do the work, and then see where you are a year later to evaluate, did you put your work in, and was that investment worth it?
Usually, this is how blessed I am to be surrounded by all these magnificent black women here and in the mastermind. You know, echoing what has already been said, I had a mentor. I still do, actually. She's my other mother. And she went through a really hard period. And I just saw her spirit, you know, kind of beat down. And it was like all of the inspiring things she used to say, they were replaced with, you know, laments and complaints. And I don't know why I had courage to say this to her because sometimes I'm a big people pleaser. That's one of my biggest saboteurs. But I remember telling her, she reminded me of it too. I said, I don't know if you can be in my front row anymore. She's back. But I told her that, and she said that was the wake-up call she needed. The reality is that if your life is, the movie theme that you had in the release. Your life is a movie, and there's going to be a lot of people in the theater, but you got to be selective about who gets to be in the front row, who gets access, who gets to talk to you. Being a part of a community of people who share your mindset, that some are ahead, some are behind, some are right beside you, is great because mindset, they're going to be saying the things and repeating the things that Dr. EJT and Latrice and Erica are saying. It's like you're changing your environment. You're changing the air in the room. And so that's going to mean that, instead of having the person in your ear that, oh, yeah, I told you ain't going to do that. You have, oh, come on, I knew we could do that. Like, come on, what happened? Like, you need that. Last year, I didn't so much say people didn't really have the money, but I was sitting back there like, I don't know how I'd ever get up there. And Erin came up, and we talked about it up here on the stage real quick when we hugged. Yeah. And I saw her up there at six-figure quarter, and I was like, man, I want to be up there. And so I introduced myself, and I said, I really want to do that one day. And she said, you will, next year. And then that's what we said. That's what we said up here. Yeah. And so having people, whether they're the ones you call all the time or the ones you see at the mastermind retreats, or you see them here once a year, but being really selective and purposeful about sprinkling good people in your life is important. Because what you hear, what you see, what you breathe, what you consume is what's going to come out of you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you have to be careful with that.
Mm-hmm. So good. You all, let's thank our panel for all of the wisdom and expertise that they just shared. Thank them for their wisdom. And I'm just sitting here, I was telling them backstage, I was like, my team, we all have different roles and we all have like different superlatives. Mine's is not most likely to cry. That ain't my superlative. And I do feel a little frog in my throat since about 9 o'clock this morning because it's like literally as each of these individuals were receiving an award, I literally saw them how they were last year, walking up to the stage. And the beautiful thing is knowing the context to their business, of what they've gone through, what they've had to push through. People who've had to transition team and have the difficult conversation in order to skyrocket and go to the next level. People who've had to get really deep in email marketing in order to generate leads. People who've had to hire. People who've had to raise their prices. People who had to completely redo their offer. Or someone coming to a call and your offers are too complicated because you think you have to give everything away in order to charge that price. And there's no way you can make 7 figures because your offers are too much and you can't scale it. And so I just want to say that I am so deeply proud of each and every one of you. It is an honor to be on this journey with you. And this ain't the destination, right? This is a milestone. It's a milestone. Any final words that you all want to share with the audience before we wrap our panel?
I have to say this. When you said you were feeling froggy. So I don't know if you all noticed it because it was a lot of music. It was hyped and everything. But Erica was a living illustration for me. There was a moment when I realized that in all of the hullabaloo, her eyes were red. The tears were welling up. She was living in her purpose, experiencing the manifestation of a dream that she had. I don't know how long ago, but there was a time when this room didn't exist anywhere but in the relationship between Erica and God. And the reality is that however you believe, however you exert your faith and your spirituality, that there is a purpose in each of you, and there is a moment in your future where you will experience that if you will walk in faith, if you will do the work that is required. So remember that, hold that image. Not us with the awards, that's great, but that image of standing in purpose. How many people would have told Erica that a black woman couldn't do this? How many millions are in this room now because of Erica? Dr. EJT. So she is the manifestation. That's a future self.
Not you trying to change my superlative. Okay. Listen, I'm trying to blink real fast. Like, all right, thank you all. Thank you. I never take that for granted. And it is integrity is deeply important to me. It is very important to me, which is why I believe that I can't teach anything that I haven't done, right? So anything that I teach you, anything that I talk about, anything that I advocate for, I have done it. And so I appreciate the gratitude and appreciate you all for the way in which you're showing love, because that for me is alignment, is when I can stand on this stage and be an example of that it's possible, but also as someone who operates from integrity of being in alignment, right? That it's a purview for each and every one of you in your business. Thank you all. Thank you.